Hi, and welcome to the Total Recall Show. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And as you can see, we have our friend, the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, we got this. I think when we were on the expedition down to the Amazon.
Yeah.
For some reason, it was handed to us by Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. Have you ever had Crystal Skull vodka?
I have not. I've been meaning to. Every time I stop at a state store, I'm like, God, I got to get some of Danny's. It's supposed to be diamond filtered.
Now, I mean, we might as well, so we're talking about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Just right off the bat, the whole Crystal Skull mystery is something that I've always been interested in. And, once I heard about it, it was like, okay, that's really cool that there's these crystal skulls that they've discovered, and they don't know how they're made, and they're the precision is so perfect, and you couldn't make them today. You couldn't make crystal skulls this precise today. So how did they do it? 6,000 years ago or whatever it was.
I didn't know about the crystal skulls, and I was, I'm into the timeline. Remember those lines in the desert and stuff? I'm into all that stuff, but this escaped me until the movie. I didn't know about it till the movie came out.
Yeah, because that was so for me, I was so intrigued by the crystal skulls, and when I heard that the next Indiana Jones movie was going to be about crystal skulls, I was kind of like, okay, this is cool. We're gonna get some answers. They're gonna kind of do their best to come up with some kind of answers around it. And ultimately, that aspect of the movie disappointed me because because they kind of invented this other crystal skull, this sort of alien-shaped crystal skull, which we've never seen in real. It's an invention for the movie, and that well, here's the explanation for this alien crystal skull that you've never seen. It's I want an or an attempt at an explanation of these, the real crystal skull.
I'm right with you, Tom. That's the one thing. Even the crystal skull on Drew Struzan's poster is more in line with this than the alien one. And I want to stick to a human-ish looking skull rather than the weird alien
why
skull.
Couldn't the aliens have the concept behind the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was that it's okay, we did these 1940s Indiana Jones stories, and they're done in a 1940s style. Now we're gonna do a 1950s Indiana Jones, and it's gonna be in a 1950s style. Maybe it's gonna be in black and white. Maybe it's gonna be in red and blue 3D. It's gonna be a 50s flying saucer movie, but starring Indiana Jones. And then maybe in the 60s. It's psychedelic Indiana Jones. Yeah. Maybe in the 70s it's Kojak Indiana Jones or something.
Holy shit!
But it's gonna
Indy's wearing a jacket with sheepskin collar on it.
The 90s it's gonna be Indiana Jones in Jurassic Park. So you adjust the story for so that was kind of the concept. So they're gonna do a flying saucer Indiana Jones movie. So they're kind of setting Indiana Jones in this kind of 50s world. Now, as the movie was developed, more and more of that got sort of stripped out.
Yeah, the one thing is, I like having alien image, the UFO flying saucer imagery, but they didn't have to come out directly and be there's the aliens running around. Even they could have had I don't know, a nod to the flying saucer stuff.
Well, I guess they figure out a way to fit Indiana Jones and his archaeology with it. So they do sort of the ancient astronaut kind of stuff, Chariots of the Gods. They work that stuff in, and that's cool. And then they cross it with you see an actual 1950s style flying saucer. Just being in that 1950s era. So it's now they're not fighting Nazis anymore. They're fighting communists. You got a lot of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg are 50s kids, so you got all the 50s stuff. You got hot rods and you got American Graffiti in there. You got
what's Mutt? What is that movie?
The Wild One. Yeah,
I love Mutt's look.
It's a great look, and it's Marlon Brando in The Wild One. It's a great look. And he's good in the movie.
Yeah.
He's sort of a polarizing figure, but I think he's good in the movie. But it's you're dressing up like Brando. You kind of need the modern day Brando, and I guess it's they weren't able to.
Shia LaBeouf might think he's the modern day Brando.
Yeah, they couldn't. I guess they couldn't. And it's like maybe there isn't a modern day Brando.
This is one of my favorite moments. Like a lot of campus stuff is some
the
of my
50s
favorite
stuff. It's like the greasers and I forget what the other ones are, but
the Socias and the greasers.
The Socias and the greasers. Yeah, the outsiders.
Outsiders.
Yeah.
I love it. He dips his comb in a pop.
Yeah.
And like runs it through his hair. Nice cut. Nice coif on.
Yeah.
Shia.
Yeah, it is like this movie was like so nostalgic for them, I'm sure. And it's like, okay, yeah, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, they love the, old movie serials and stuff like that, but that wasn't exactly their era. Like that was kind of like, it would be us like talking about the 70s or something.
Yeah.
Like we like the 70s, we love it. But like this 50s stuff, that's like where they breathe. This would be like the 80s for me. It would be like, okay, yeah, I love the 70s and the 60s and all that stuff, but like the 80s, like I know it inside and out, and it's,
Whenever this came out, people were like, whoa, Harrison Ford is like so old. Watching it now, I'm like, he looks better than I do currently. He's like, he looks fucking great.
I don't want to do the math, but yeah, he's about to play Indiana Jones again. So yeah, this is a spry.
He looks spry as hell in this. Before they're like, holy shit.
Well, that was kind of famous. Like the first shot that you see him in, he's in the trunk of the car. They take him out of the trunk of the car, they throw him on the ground, and you see like this shot of his bald spot. And he said he insisted on, like Harrison Ford insisted on that. He wanted to show that kind of vulnerability and stuff. But then like for the rest of the movie, when you're seeing him from the front with like, the lighting and the makeup and this and that, it's like he looks, he looks like the same old Indiana Jones.
Same old Indy.
And if you didn't see that shot, you wouldn't know.
Wouldn't know it. Like the
and notice how it's cropped in this shot. Like it's cropped right where his bald spot would be.
His like toupee falls off and he puts it back. Instead of the hat laying there, it's his toupee. He puts
he reaches back.
He gets it in the movie. Yeah. He rolls under the things. He grabs his toupee and puts it on. Yeah. This is such a great fucking scene. This whole like
okay, like I love this movie, and yeah, there are some stretches. When I was like rewatching it, the stretch of the movie that I'm not as much of a fan of, I did fall asleep during. Like when I was watching it again, got a nice nap. But
it's a long movie.
It is a long movie. But like everything all the way up through like Indy surviving a nuclear blast, I love all of that. It's like it's like Indy evolved out of James Bond, and it's the cold open. It's like that whole part is amazing, and that was always my favorite part of James Bond movies.
Love
anyway,
those cold opens.
And think about the great one in Temple of Doom.
I mean, Indy is in a James Bond tuxedo in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a 1-to-1.
Mm-hmm. And so I love that part, and then the rest of the movie, it's got its highs and lows, but like I love all this stuff with Mutt and the motorcycle chase and all that.
Like Spielberg, when he's like directing the action, like he can direct the hell out of an action scene, like the whole motorcycle stuff. Like this, when this fight breaks out, it's hilarious.
Yeah, because it is like you're remembering all those movies, and he's like punch this guy, and then it starts a fight, and then all of a sudden all the greasers line up on one side, and all the guys with their Letterman jackets line up on the other.
This got a huge pop in the theater. Yeah. Like right here, everyone.
This part where it's like, okay, now they're squaring up, and the guys are taking off.
This got a huge pop. Look at that stunt work. You got the glasses.
How much fun would that be? Like auditioning for that, being like, okay, we need a bunch of like Fonzies, and like,
I go in there to audition. I like how he backs up onto the motorcycle.
I know it's like every flavor of Fonzie too.
It's like 30 wonderful flavors of Fonzie. He's like somebody in there is like jumping. He's got water skis on.
I think I saw like Artie Lang as Fonzie in that.
Oh my god! Look at this. I love the camera work here.
Yeah, the camera's like real low, and that was like in that opening scene where they're in the desert, going into Area 51. And you have the mound, and then like a mole kind of climbs out of it and stuff. And then the cars kind of weave, the hot rods kind of weaving around.
The camera's shaking, kind of.
The camera's shaking and it's moving, and it does like it takes you back to like Spielberg's earliest stuff. Like he's been doing that stuff all his career, but like Duel and stuff, where you're kind of like got these like you're moving around these cars, checking stuff out. Like he does great
action,
car action.
What a great gag.
Yeah. And you don't really think of Indiana Jones as like a car chase kind of movie. Like you would have like these like trucks in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
You'd have tanks, but like this as far as I recall, this is like the first like real car chase in an Indiana Jones movie, and it's just great.
There's always like I like the running gag of like something falling off a giant cliff in all the movies.
Yeah.
Like an insane like.
Yeah. Indy is still like he's still an adventurer, all this stuff, but then he also gets to play a little bit of Henry Jones Sr.
Yeah, he like took up the mantle.
Yeah, he'll there's a direct like reference to Last Crusade where Mutt pulls off some move and he's real proud of himself, and then Indiana Jones kind of gives him like a stern look like Henry Jones Sr. did to him.
You got the Marcus Brody statue.
Yeah, right. With what Denham.
Denham. Is it Denham Elliott or something?
Elliott, yeah. You see his painting all over the campus and stuff. And if you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, he's like Q or like M in the James Bond movies, and he's like, he's super cool. He's like all business. And then in Last Crusade, they decided like, let's make him a buffoon.
Yeah.
And so that kind of stuck. So you kind of see like he's kind of played for laughs.
I always do that. I just love quoting the from Last Crusade. He's like, "Care to wet your whistle, Marcus?" He's like, "I'd rather spit in your face."
I'd rather spit in your face. Look, Henry, the pen is mightier than the sword. Yeah, this stuff in the library. This stuff in the library makes me think of Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah. Like for some reason, there's a goose blowjob in this too.
They go to Area 51. Like that was they kind of had to pull back from this like heavy 50s UFO kind of approach that they were originally planning. They kind of had to pull away from that because when they were planning this movie, it's like you started having X-Files, and you had Independence Day, and you had Mars Attacks, and it just like it just felt like it would be lost in the sauce, kind of.
Definitely,
it seemed derivative.
I think like the original like title of it was like Indiana Jones
and the Flying Saucer. Yeah, it was like Indiana Jones versus the Flying Saucers. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, like they were gonna do like a full on, and I kind of missed that a little bit. Like, I think they're smart and they understand that like the audience expects certain things from an Indiana Jones movie, so we sort of expect these dusty, cobwebby crypts and things,
which is one of my favorite parts of this movie. I love when they see those like conquistadors in those like cocoons.
Yeah.
And then when they're exposed to air, they like immediately like
wither. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, a lot of great little gags or great little kind of tricks, or I don't know, gimmicks, traps, puzzles. Really cool. And when I first saw this movie, like some of that stuff. It was really nice to see. It was really nice to see like the guys who invented this stuff doing it and doing it really well. But it had been kind of copied to death. So it was kind of, it felt tired, even though these guys are the innovators and are still, can do it better than anybody else. It was kind of like, you'd seen all the Mummy movies, you'd seen Tomb Raider, maybe Da Vinci Code or something had come out by this point. So it was like, it had kind of been strip-mined to death. It might have been interesting if they had gone with like this completely fresh, like let's reinvent the 50s, kind of approach. That
would have been rad as hell. And like we might get the writer David Koepp from this he wrote the Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what that is, because I think maybe there was a little bit of shyness about getting too innovative with this and too adventurous with this after what happened with George Lucas with the prequels. Sort of the blowback from that, and it's like, no, the audience expects certain things from the even like Indy's costume. Like at this point, like I love seeing him in it. It's like so familiar, but I'm surprised they didn't like try to reinvent it a little bit.
Yeah, it would have been cool to see. Like they could have gave him like a like a different jacket or something
Yeah.
that might have become iconic for this movie.
Right, like the way they reinvented Han Solo's look in The Force Awakens.
Yes.
It's like freshen it up a little bit, or like, and like you were saying at the beginning of Temple of Doom, he has that Humphrey Bogart, James Bond kind of suit, and then by the end of the movie, he's wearing his regular outfit, but by the end it's all torn up and he starts looking like Doc Savage or something.
Yes, because the sleeves are cut off and stuff.
So like, again, like if they maybe, played with it, and especially since, okay, now we're, into the 50s, maybe like what would the 50s Indiana Jones look like? So it's kind of like seeing him in that same outfit kind of.
I would have loved a little, you're right though, a little like they were trying to play it a little safe after the prequels.
But I guess if they had kind of like a Indiana Jones like dressed up as like Gregory Peck or something, like some kind of 50s thing, it would have been like, hey, where's the he's got to have the hat.
Definitely.
But like, maybe change up the gear a little bit,
And speaking of that, like in the preview for Dial of Destiny, I think his outfit still looks kind of the same in that too.
Yeah, I guess at this point it's like
they're like,
you got
holy
it.
shit.
But like, like I didn't want him to be dressed up like Mutt. Like I didn't want like Fonzie Indiana Jones, but like the way like a mature hero in a 50s movie might try to find that some version of that archetype.
What if he's dressed like since he's the professor, he's dressed up like one of the what's it called at Apollo 13, the ground he's dressed up like a ground control guy.
Yeah.
He's got like a pocket protector and stuff. The short sleeve button up.
I mean, he does like, there's like scenes where he's just wearing like regular clothes here and there, like sprinkled through it. But yeah, he's got to get that leather jacket back on.
He dressed up like Fonz. He's like, he comes out, he's like, hey.
Yeah, he meets Mutt and they both have the same haircut, and that's where like, wait a second.
They both they meet by kicking a jukebox at the same time.
Well, they kind of imply that like Indiana Jones like fucks his students, in these movies. So like it would be kind of funny if like they have like a 60s one and he's dressed like, the Love Guru or something. Like he's dressed in this like Nehru shirt and like love beads and like square purple sunglasses.
He's got heart lenses.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like Indiana Jones having his midlife crisis or something,
Like the promoter from Woodstock.
Right,
like,
yeah.
He's the guy like putting on the show.
Yeah, wearing like a vest with no shirt.
No shirt on.
Yeah.
He's got like bare feet, dirty feet.
When the flying saucer does show up, it's after all this kind of like, ancient astronaut kind of stuff. And I was kind of hoping, because this is very much in like sort of Jack Kirby territory. There's like, like it's like the Eternals and stuff, all that ancient astronaut, Chariots of the Gods kind of stuff. And then there's like that room they go in, that lost city or whatever. There's that room they go in with all these different treasures from like around the world. And it kind of reminded me of when we watched Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yes, it did. The
which is kind of like part of Indiana Jones' DNA. Kirby had like an issue of Commandy where there was like this UFO and it would like deposit all these like treasures of the Earth and monuments and stuff in this like one kind of valley. And it kind of made me think of that. And then when like the UFO does show up, and it's like just the classic 50s UFO that you would see in Day the Earth Stood Still. But it's kind of like, I was kind of hoping for like a funkier kind of like, like Jack Kirby UFO, or like the UFO, like a, what is part of those like, drawings that like the Incans and the Aztecs are drawing, in their pyramids and stuff. Like I wanted to see like kind of like a funky version of that, not like a 50s UFO. Like I feel like the 50s UFO was like kind of a holdover from this like earlier treatment, this earlier version of the movie, and it's just like it felt to me like the wrong place for it. Like maybe if they showed up like earlier in the movie, like seeing some weird saucers flying around.
You're right, because like when here's that.
Yes.
Oh my god.
And we never get an explanation of who these guys are, and it does remind me of the plot point in Last Crusade, where there's these guys who are like this religious order who are like protecting the Grail. That's kind of what these like skeleton guys I thought was going to be like the reveal that like, oh, they're part of some like order
organization
that's like protecting this secret. But they just kind of they're just almost like there as like props. They kind of just like pop up. You know, he fights them. Very cool. Like they're obviously like acrobats or whatever, doing all these crazy tumbles. And...
I think this guy or one of them is Ernie Reyes Jr. from Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
He's like got some.
Yeah, he's got the moves.
Look at what a great
with the skulls
look.
on their face. And then when they get to that like sort of final like lost city, there's like a bunch of like kind of similar guys that I thought there was going to be some explanation of like some connection between the two, but it's just like it's just random. It's probably some reference to some like movie these guys watched when they were kids or something. Yeah.
I love the how it's like I love like the leaves blowing around and like this setting here. Oh, the reverse blow dart.
There's little innovations. It's like they're doing this. Lucas and Spielberg, they're kind of doing like variations on stuff they've done in earlier movies, but they're adding new wrinkles. Like the leaves blowing, the sort of flashing lights.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the moments in the movie when they're exploring through here. I think we're going to see the conquistadors.
When they first like reveal those like alien mummies, like earlier in the movie, and it's like it's this like shiny, like I thought it was some kind of like metal sarcophagus or something, and then they start sawing into it.
It looks so satisfying.
Yeah.
It looks like the bio-flesh regenerator from the Terminator 2 toy line. I'm like, and then because in that early scene in the movie, they're like, "I need your bullets. It's magnetized." And he throws in, they follow the bullets, and he's like, Max, like, Indy, use your earring.
Yeah,
he's like, Callista gave this to me. He's like,
as an engagement
present.
I love, like, this is the thing of, like, where they have, like, the webs blowing in the wind.
I love this.
Stuff.
It doesn't,
it does hit all the spots. It's just, like,
God.
When, trying to sort of, like, marry these, like, kind of, like, there's, like, new elements they want to bring... But then they also want to, play the hits, do the classics.
Playing the hits, yeah. The old reach into a weird hole to flick a switch maneuver,
and that you can tell a lot of thought went into that sort of like final part because they have all these. I know they had like toys around this time. I'd love to see like some play sets where like you pull a little thing out and then the obelisk pulls down and like forms and.
You know what I'm gonna have to grab. Now, there was a whole Lego set.
Yeah, there were a bunch of Legos of this stuff. Yeah,
I gotta. There's one of with those two guys with the skull masks, two minifigures.
I kind of wasn't really paying attention to toys around that time. Like I was too old for toys back. I'm not too old for toys now, but I was too old for toys back then.
I love the your Well of Souls in the Lego. That's clutch.
Well of Souls. Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Look at this. What great practical like set dressing.
Yeah,
here.
Lots of great skeletons in here. I like the scene where he like makes him hold a skeleton.
Oh, it's so funny. There's, what I remember. There was a lot of pop moments in the theater for this movie.
Yeah. Oh, it played really well, and I liked it a lot. And again, it's like, it's one of those movies that like the internet trashes, but like I liked, and like I understand like there's certain part, but like all the stuff that all the stuff that I didn't like so much in it. Nobody else ever mentioned. The stuff they mention is like, oh, this sucks, or like all my favorite parts, like him getting in the lead-lined refrigerator, like that whole sequence, and like when he like realizes he's in like a nuclear test, a nuclear test city. This like it's like you're seeing that sort of
comedy,
and you're seeing that Steven Spielberg Suburbia that you've seen a million times. But there's something a little off, something wrong with the colors and stuff. And then he goes in there, and then you see like these mannequin people, sitting there.
And the AstroTurf.
Yeah.
I even I remember I mentioned I defended this movie during a Best Man speech that I was giving.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's on brand. That's on brand.
Bringing up Kingdom of the Crystal Skull during
Are you still friends with this couple?
Yeah.
Okay. It didn't. She wasn't like, I don't want you talking to him anymore. Shia LaBeouf. I was at like a couple comic conventions where he was like he's one of my peers. Like I was at like a comic convention in Chicago, and everybody's like, oh, Shia LaBeouf set up, and he's selling his mini comics.
Oh, well, I forgot to see it.
Self-published mini
Wow.
comics. They were weird. It was like, it would be like guys on motorcycles and stuff. Like, I don't know if he was kind of like living through this Mutt character, you know.
Yeah.
These like mummies with like the big heads. So like I'm thinking they open those up and there's gonna be some, you know, big crazy alien head or whatever.
It's the like a xenomorph in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of cutting into mummies.
Oh, this is sad.
Yeah,
Somebody needs
that mummy, like the wrappings look like they're made out of shredded wheat. Like I want to eat those mummy wrappings.
Somebody should do the enhanced ASMR version of this.
I like when he's like, you got a knife, like he's been twirling this knife all movie, and he's like, you don't happen to have a knife on you, do you?
Great gag.
Yeah, lots of great gags. And yeah, they're a good team. Like they're a good team. The chemistry is not quite, you know, like you know, hitting on all cylinders, but it's still it works. Like,
yeah.
Like I hope that Mutt doesn't get the Charlie Sheen treatment in the new movie. You know, like I hope they're not like, oh yeah, he died of autoerotic asphyxiation. I had a son named Mutt. He died of autoerotic asphyxiation. Like I hope they don't, you know, because like in 2.5 Men, it was like yeah, Charlie Sheen had his whole thing and it's all crazy. But if somebody's like a fan of that show and like has been watching it for years, and then all of a sudden there's an episode, it's like, oh yeah, you know, they came up with some gruesome death for Charlie Sheen's character, like, oh yeah, he got run over by multiple subway cars, and you know, his eyeballs rolled out.
He drowned in his own piss.
Yeah, exactly. It's you know, I never watched that show, but if I were like a fan, I'd feel kind of like, even though it's like I get the joke they're going for, it's like I would feel kind of like angry that like my you know, this show that I've been invested in all this, you know, it's saying this to
double
me.
Middle fingers.
Yeah, like,
what happened to Mutt? Oh, he drowned in his own diarrhea.
Right, yeah. An autoerotic asphyxiation by diarrhea. I hope it's like, you know, something similar to what they do here with Henry Jones Sr. with Sean Connery, where it's like he looks at a picture, like, but instead of being like, oh, here's a picture of my son Mutt, it's a shame about that diarrhea accident. Like instead being kind of like, oh yeah, I got this postcard from Mutt. He's off, you know, having some adventure someplace else. You know what I mean? Like,
you know what? What if there's a surprise cameo from Shia LaBeouf? Wouldn't that be pretty cool?
I mean, I get the feeling that's not like, I get the feeling it's got all the marks of a like a Charlie Sheen scenario coming our way, because it is kind of like, you know, people love to goof on, you know, Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, so Karen Allen, it's great to see her back. You know, kind of like Mark Hamill in the new Star Wars movies. It's like it's hard to act opposite Harrison Ford, because at this point, you know, he's been consistently in the game. You know, and so his chops are perfectly honed. He hasn't lost a beat. But then, you know, like Mark Hamill hasn't been in sort of like a major movie role in a really long time. On screen, yeah. He's been like this voice actor, but he kind of, you know, he seemed like a little bit rusty. Mm-hmm. Like I think he was ultimately very good in that second one. Yeah. But they played to his strengths. But again, it's like, you know, you're being put next to Harrison Ford, you're going to kind of pale. And it was kind of the same with Karen Allen. She was great. It was good to see her again, but you could tell she was like a little rusty. She wasn't quite like where she was, you know, last time we saw her in Raiders. And that, you know, like sort of, you know, the sort of run of movies, you know, at her, you know, like Starman and Animal House. You know, it was kind of like, you could tell she's a little out of practice, but it was great to see her back.
I remember when my mom saw this, she was so excited to see Karen Allen.
Yeah, I was very happy to see her too. Cate Blanchett as the villain,
Spalko.
Yeah, she was really good, really interesting. You know, great performance. Great haircut,
cool,
you know,
look,
gray
and black.
I like the idea of introducing like some psychic like it's again fine. Like it's like a sci-fi indie. Like it would have been nice to like lean into the sci-fi like even more, but like it was nice having like a sci-fi indie. The only thing is, it's like, you know, you think of like Tote from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you think of like the various villains they've had over the years. It's like, I don't want to see Cate Blanchett's face melt or whatever.
Yes,
like you are so rooting to see Tote's face melt. You so want to see him get it. You want to see Beloche. You want to see him get it. Mola Ram. You want to see
Donovan.
Donovan from Last Crusade. Like when
Choose
that's
poorly.
that's a pretty great
crap.
That's like a Ray Harryhausen kind of like stop motion thing.
God.
You know, the last time you're not going to see CGI in a Indiana Jones movie, like when he decomposes. But again, like Cate Blanchett, it's kind of like it's just too likable. You know?
Yeah,
I didn't want to see her like. I didn't want to see her get it.
I wanted to see her be like, "I'll get you next time, Dr.
Right,
Jones,"
exactly.
and then like fly away.
Yeah, she will return. Or and then like that other guy and Mac, like he was, you know, because he wasn't enough of like a shitbag either. You know,
No.
like you needed kind of like a shitbag in there for you to be like. when their face melts, yeah.
Like Ray Winstone, he was like a triple agent.
Yeah, triple. I like that.
I like that.
What are you, a triple agent? I get the feeling Mac's character is there's probably some like old, you know, Humphrey Bogart movie or something that has like that character in it because he felt, you know, he seemed like a reference to something. Yeah. I'm just not as versed in this kind of like 1950s kind of stuff.
Those guys must have like some kind of like 50s Rolodex in their brain.
Yeah, and it's like that's my dad's generation too. Like his nostalgia is 50s, and it's and I saw all the Indiana Jones movies with my dad except for this one. This one like I didn't see this one. I saw it like you know, on his recommendation. I mean, I was going to see it anyway, but he was like, "You got to see the new Indiana Jones." And so, I like this scene of the shadows on the gauze.
Oh, it's great.
Again, like that. You know, Spielberg's just so great for all that all this like attention to detail and like, you know, painting with light. You know, that kind of stuff.
Look,
you know, isn't that a cool gimmick? Like it's throughout this scene, but like they have this tent, and then like the shadow is kind of the shadow kind of makes the tent like a little translucent there. It's like such a great element.
Beautiful.
But yeah, my dad was like real big on this, and like so he loves all that 50s stuff, and you know.
My mom was born in 55.
Okay, yeah, my dad was born in the 40s, so like, you know, he like, you know, the 50s are like his golden age. Yeah.
And the I like
because my mom was born in the 50s too, so like the 50s is a little like the 60s is like her era. Yeah.
I just feel you're right. Like George Lucas and Spielberg for this were like pulling from that like Time Life Mysteries series, and they even had earlier in the movie looking through. They see those mysterious lines in the desert, like those patterns they had. They were in a book earlier.
Yeah, it was cool seeing that stuff and getting a movie that kind of tries to tie all that stuff together in a fun way, not in any kind of like serious kind of thing. You know what's shocking me? Dan Aykroyd is in Temple of Doom.
Yes.
How did they not find a role for Dan Aykroyd in this movie? Mr. Crystal Skull. And he, you know, he probably refused to be part of this when they had an inaccurate Crystal Skull.
I know. Like he's like he could have showed up and been like he's like, it's diamond filtered, and then drinks out of the crystal skull.
He would have been great as Mac.
He would have been great. Yeah. Same build.
Yeah. You know it's funny. There's that other character, like the other professor, who kind of goes missing and kind of like goes insane from staring in the eyes of the crystal skull. Like, you know, he looks like, you know, a great grandpa or whatever, and then Indy's like, "We went to school together," and I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's like what a real person who's Harrison Ford's age like really looks like. You take away the Hollywood magic,
and he looks.
But it is kind of shocking because, you know, they do like kind of glow up the star, so it's like, here's, you know,
he's like, we went to school together, and then his dentures pop out and he stuffs them back in.
Yeah, like I know he's supposed to have like gone insane and gone through some like rough times and stuff like that, so he's supposed to look like a little, but you know, and then at the end he's all cleaned up for the wedding. That this professor friend of his is all cleaned up for the wedding. I didn't recognize him at first. I'm like, what's Jerry Stiller doing at Indiana Jones's wedding?
He's like, he comes into that there with a Festivus pole.
Yeah.
He's like,
I was also kind of scanning the guests at the wedding because I thought like,
perfect.
Shouldn't like Willie Scott be there? Like, I guess that's another story to tell, is like what happened between him and Willie Scott. You know, it's not like she's out of, it's like, we don't have Kate Capshaw's number anymore. Like she was probably on the set.
They're still.
Exactly.
Still together.
That's Kate Capshaw is still married. Like has been married to Steven Spielberg since they met. On the set of Temple of Doom. So it's like I'm surprised she doesn't. I guess like they would have been afraid of. Marion and Willie getting into some kind of massive fight.
What's that? The iconic cat fight from like
it was from Dynasty. It was Joan Collins and Linda somebody. But it would have turned into that. It's like okay, we're not ready for that. Extra
like a side eye in the church.
The thing that occurred to me is that Indiana Jones, like the reason he looks so much better than that guy he went to school with and stuff. He took a couple swigs of the Holy Grail.
That you just blew my mind. That's the that there's no other explanation than that.
Yeah, and I don't. Maybe they'll reference that in the Dial of Destiny because maybe Harrison Ford looks good. I think that's supposed to be the 70s or whatever.
Yeah.
He looks a lot better than his age or whatever in that. So like maybe they're gonna like directly reference that in the Dial of Destiny. And that was kind of Alan Moore's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's like Alan Quatermain finds the Fountain of Youth and he starts drinking from it regularly, and so he's able to stay eternally youthful. That's why he's able to have adventures in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, even though he's a character from the 1890s.
Yeah.
Maybe Alan Moore was riffing off of Indiana Jones taking some sips of the Holy Grail.
That makes that too perfect of sense.
So we could have an Indiana, like an eternal Indiana Jones.
He chose wisely.
Yeah, he chose wisely. Maybe Dial of Destiny will have like a flashback where he like goes back to that temple with like some climbing gear and like goes down, into that crack.
Yeah.
And like, because he didn't have to reach too far to get that grail,
Let it shine.
Indiana, let it go.
Let it go.
Indiana?
Yeah.
I'm named the Jaw, Indiana. Welcome to the Rock.
Welcome to the Rock.
They go to Area 51, and Area 51 was like such a 90s thing. And you can imagine how, it would be like what an eye roller it might have been if it did come out in the 90s.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh God, another one of these. Where in this, the Area 51's like very subtle. Like you don't even, like the doors, I don't know that I noticed it the first time I saw it, but the doors open and there's this like very faded 51 painted on, and then you find out that big warehouse that you see at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark is Area 51.
I didn't even notice it until like I read a review after I saw it. They're like, Indy goes to Area 51. I was like, I
don't remember that scene.
What?
Yeah, when I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark for the first time in the theater, like we came in late. Like we came in and they're like already in the temple, like they're already stepping on things that make the spikes come out and stuff.
Speaking of like the small characters, like those like temple guards, I love Jock from the first movie.
Yeah, Jock. Yeah, these characters that like again like Indy, every time he's got a whole he's like the Shadow. He's kind of like a pulp character, and he's like the Shadow. The Shadow always had his little support team. There would be these like different kind of characters. There'd be like like a wisecracking street hustler, say Mac, that kind of guy, and
David Kep, I think he wrote the Shadow movie.
Okay, yeah.
And Jurassic Park.
Yeah, the Shadow, this is like all that, like Indiana Jones has like all that stuff rolled in, and the aforementioned Doc Savage and stuff. It also, I think Alan Moore must have been thinking of this, thinking of Indiana Jones when he was making his League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, because you have Alan Quatermain as like one of the main characters in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but he had like this approach of like, okay, this series starts out in like the 1890s and it's got all that 1890s stuff, and he did like 2 series in like the 1890s, but then he's like, that's what everybody expects this thing to just be forever, is this sort of like Victorian superhero kind of thing. But then from that point onward, it's in like all these, it's in every different era. There's like the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, all the, the 10s, like 1910, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, we only get, because it's like a movie, we only get so many bites of the apple. I wish there were 20 Indiana Jones movies.
Too.
Like I would go, and when this movie came out and then people were like, oh, I don't like it. Like I was thinking like, the first time you saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's like, as many of these movies they make, that's how many I'm going to see.
Of course.
And so it feels kind of like, it's shitty to be kind of like, there were a couple of things I didn't like in that
But
new
fuck
one.
this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
you get, like, an Indiana Jones movie directed by Steven Spielberg, and
Yes.
you're gonna poo-poo it?
Yeah.
Give me a fucking break.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's like, I love all of them. They all have, like, every single Indiana Jones movie has something to like, keep you coming back. But they're all great.
Love them.
They take chances in all of them. Probably, like the kind of what inspired us to do this episode was that Tarantino was, like, talking about how he didn't like Last Crusade, but he likes this one, like, more than Last Crusade, and so it kind of got us, like, thinking about this, and kind of like, let's do it. And it's like, I love Last Crusade.
Me too.
And I love having, I think Sean Connery's great. That was like Tarantino's critique. He thought the Sean Connery character stunk. I think that's probably Quentin's dad issues kind of. It's like that absentee father fucking sucks. I hate this movie. I think it's more that, like, he does not find this absentee father very lovable.
And I think he said his favorite's Temple of Doom.
And well, that's the thing. Like, Temple of Doom is so adventurous, takes so many chances. When people they just wanted a repeat of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Temple of Doom is not that. Very, very outre, this very, like, out there movie. And then Last Crusade was, like, a little more of a return to form, was a little bit safer. So I could see being sort of disappointed in it in that aspect. But again, I still love it.
I love it too. And he was saying that's his second, Temple of Doom was his second favorite overall Spielberg movie.
That's interesting. Temple of Doom has, there's a lot to recommend, and it is so, and again, like,
it's like firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's so out there, it's so going for it. And of course we'll do separate Indiana Jones episodes for all the movies, but and you could see like the guy who made a movie where somebody stabs somebody in the heart to give them an adrenaline injection, of course, is going to love the movie where, like, somebody's heart gets ripped out. Yeah.
And the way do you? I keep bringing this up when we watch. Where Eagles Dare, The Last Crusade, very, like, the setting kind of, like, a lot of influence.
Well, yeah, because isn't it like a World War II?
They're in Austria, like, there's a castle. They're like trying to.
So it's that. I'm thinking of, like, the tank stuff in
the ending,
Last Crusade. But you're talking about, like, do you have any tapestries?
If you're Scottish Lord, then I'm Mickey Mouse.
I love that. Yeah. If you are Scottish Duke, then I am Mickey Mouse. Love that whole movie. My dad loved that movie. Like, he loved, like, the father-son dynamic, and he would always quote, and he would tell me, "You left just when you were becoming interesting."
I was he's like Shamrock later. He's like, the floor is on fire, and the chair.
I'm as human as the next man. I was the next man.
Oh yeah, when they were fucking.
Yeah, great. Stepping morons like yourself should try reading books instead of burning them. I like when he shoots out the tail of the the plane. Yeah, so great. And that was the other thing, like, and Tarantino was complaining that it was like Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Like, I never saw Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, so I don't know the exact comparison. I can guess. I was in Germany when that movie came out, and I kept seeing the posters. Stop oder meine Mami schießt was the poster. But
Stop or My Mom Scheiße.
Yeah, stop. It was a Scheiße film. Stop oder meine Mami schießt. Schießt means shoots, but Scheist means shit.
I was like,
Stop
excited.
or meine Mami scheißt. Stop or my mom will shit. You have James Bond. Sean Connery's last James Bond movie wasn't that many years before Last Crusade. Last Crusade was like 89 or something.
Yeah.
And then it was like maybe 83 or 84 that he did his last James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not that many years, but it's like the last time you saw him, he was James fucking Bond. Now he's this uptight, tweedy professor who every time Indiana Jones does some James Bond move, he kind of like gives him a, kind of look like that. So it like they were having fun, and it was fun seeing him kind of buttoned down.
It's so funny. He's in that tweed jacket, but he's like he looks fucking ripped, and he's like bulging out of it.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, I mean, because he did The Rock, like
oh, yeah.
a year or two after that.
Yeah.
He's like action hero, ponytail and stuff. And
Love
then
his ponytail.
And then and also like we're talking about like redefining Indy's iconic look. Like they came up with an iconic look for his dad. That is, he's got his gear. His dad has his, Gilligan, his plaid Gilligan hat.
He's like suddenly I remembered my Charlemagne. That my armies with the rocks and the trees and the birds in the sky.
Only the penitent man will pass. Only the penitent man will pass. But Jehovah in Latin starts with an I. J.
No.
So you've been watching the Kingdom of the Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull episode of the Total Recall Show. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli or on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
Follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. This thing's starting to
glow.
It's getting magnetized.
Yeah, don't stare into it or you'll go nuts.
The space between spaces.